ladies and gentlemen, for his and their outstanding economic contribution to the island of Ireland, the President and Chief Executive of the New York Stock Exchange. Please be upstanding, Mr. Duncan Niederauer.
Good news and bad news. That was most of my material for the remarks, so that's good news and bad news. I promise I will not be as motivational as Pierce, but I will also be shorter than Pierce. How's that? Okay? All right, good. I'm going to accept this award quite humbly on behalf of our company, but I'm also going to be accepting it with a personal touch and a professional touch, because as you just heard in the video from Peter and Martin, you know, those are guys who I just met with this morning. I don't call them Mr. Minister and Mr. Deputy Minister. It's Martin and Peter, right? And I think wherever we try to do business, we try to do it with an eye towards partnership, but also an eye towards friendship. So what I thought I would do very briefly is just talk about my long personal connection to Ireland, both the Republic and the North. And then we'll talk about some of the things we've done professionally, which the video really hinted at. And then I will, hopefully I'll still be awake at the end of that, because I flew in overnight, and this is the longest thing I've ever been to other than an Irish wedding, I think. So this is pretty impressive, especially on a Tuesday night. You guys do it right here. Thank you. I'm a storyteller, so I'm just going to tell some stories. So I've got a German surname, so you're probably saying, you know, what the hell does this guy have to do with Ireland? My mom's ancestry goes back for generations in Ireland, family in Killarney and Kerry. So we've got it in our blood, and I'm a quarter Irish and 3/4 German. So when I got this job, as often is the case, and I think Pierce alluded to this, Ireland always moves a little faster than other places, and I liked your chances against Germany from the outset. But Ireland adopted me immediately when they found out that I had this job. And I said, guys, I'm only a quarter Irish, I'm 3/4 German, so I thought that means I like a good pint of Guinness, but I also like things my way most of the time. And they said, no, like, it's the quarter Irish that matters, we're going to adopt you. So they were right in doing that, because I've had a love affair with Ireland my whole life, probably because of my mother's roots. I can remember living in London in the late 70s as a student living abroad. And I lived in Camden Town in North London, some of you may know it. And that had Camden Town at that time in the late 70s had two really good things going for it. One, it was a largely Irish suburb of London. In fact, we lived above a little pub called the Murray Arms, and I don't think we paid for a pint of Guinness the entire semester, so that was pretty good. So the Irish were quite generous to us then. And we were only two stops on the tube from where Arsenal played every Saturday. Now, those of you who are football fans will know that the nucleus of that team in the late 70s had a lot in common with the Irish national team at the time, guys named Brady, O'Leary, and Jennings, that I'm sure many of you in the room would remember. I'll come back to Mr. Brady in a minute. You turn the clock a little bit forward. Several years later, I meet my wife at I will call it a pub, not a restaurant. You're not going to find a Michelin star chef at the Killarney Rose in Lower Manhattan. But I met my wife at the Killarney Rose. 100 people in the bar that night, 98 men, 2 women. I admired her for the guts of being in there. She admired me because I had all my teeth. We honeymooned in Ireland when all of our friends were going to Hawaii. We said, you know, we're not going to go to Hawaii, we're not going to the Caribbean, we're going to Ireland. Everyone said, you're going to honeymoon in Ireland? What the hell are you going to do that for? because it's a beautiful place, and you know what? If the rest of you want to go somewhere else, all the better. Ireland will be less crowded. Every one of those couples has been to Ireland since then. So we were an ambassador even back then. We did the Ring of Kerry. We visited my great-great-grandmother's hometown. And then we stayed at the Hotel Kenmare. I don't even know if it's still there, down in Kerry. And I said to the proprietor, we had a wedding to be at in Dublin on Saturday. That may be the last time I had to wear a tux in Dublin, in fact. So we had a wedding that we had to be at 1 o'clock in Dublin on the Saturday. Those of you who know Ireland, everyone in this room knows it better than I do, I'm sure, knows that it's about 100 miles, call it 150 kilometers from where we were to here. This is 1990, so I'm sure there weren't a lot of motorways back then. I say to the guy, my wife wants to be a little early because I've got to pick up a tux when I get into town. When should we leave? He says, I think you should leave at 8 o'clock in the morning if you want to make it. I'm like, 8 o'clock in the morning? I'm a New Yorker. The wedding's at 1 o'clock. I'm not leaving at 8 o'clock in the morning. He said, sir, you asked me a question. I gave you an answer. And she said, honey, I think you should listen to him. I said, look, we've been married for a week. Don't start bossing me around. We left at 8:30. We were late. She has not forgiven me for that. And we made one other mistake. This tux fits a little bit better than the one I got that day. We had a little problem with the metric system, and the tuxedo I got was out to about here when I got it. So that's the last time I wore a tux in Dublin, and as I said, that was the longest event I'd been at in Ireland until tonight. So thank you you guys are in the top two. Now, a few other things on the backstory. As Martin and Peter said, it's serendipitous, and serendipity is an interesting thing sometimes. I had been CEO for literally 5 minutes in December of 2007, and the first two people who walked through the door for my first meeting as CEO in December of 2007, Martin and Ian Paisley. So I thought there was some kind of fate involved there. And I remember going home to my wife that night saying, I sat here, Ian sat here, Martin sat here. It was probably good that there was someone in between them at that moment in time. And I said to her, I think my life's going to be different. This is not your normal job. And boy, was I ever right about that. Now, you may think, because we love our 300 employees in Belfast, which I'll come back to in a minute as well, that the first thing I do when I get to Belfast is I rush right to the office. And I greet them and I give them a warm embrace and thank them for being important employees in our great company. Actually, I go to the Crown first and I ask them to draw me a pint of Guinness. Guinness is good food, just to be very clear. So I grew up on Guinness. When we honeymooned in Ireland, all I wanted to know was where the next pub was, and we managed to find our way around. Now I want to come back to Mr. Brady, and that's the last of the personal story. So if you've ever been in my office at the NYSE, I have a picture of Liam Brady with hair, a lot of hair actually, from when he was playing for Arsenal in the late 70s. My college roommate, who I lived in London with, gave that to me when I got the job, and I proudly display it. And it stumps literally everybody who comes into my office. People will come in from London, from the UK, from everywhere, and they'll say, oh, who's that? I recognize that guy. George Best gets guessed a lot. No one ever guesses that it's Liam Brady. I've never met Liam Brady. If anybody in the room would like to help me meet Liam Brady, you can tell him that my son is named Liam. My father's name was William. We liked Liam a lot better. We didn't want a Will or a Billy. We wanted a Liam. And what I didn't tell my wife was I named him after my father, and I named him after Chippy. Now that was a good secret. That was a good secret, but what you all know about the Irish is they can't keep a secret. So one of my buddies who I worked with at Goldman Sachs came in to see me in the office, came to visit me at the house shortly after Liam was born, and says, so this is Chippy. Shh. He's like, and my wife said, what do you mean it's Chippy? We then had to tell the story, so I don't talk to that guy anymore, but I do have a son named Liam, and I am a big Liam Brady fan still to this day. So a lot of personal connections to Ireland through our whole life. A lot of professional connections too. We talked about the first day as CEO with really, and I think we have been a meaningful contributor to what's happening in Belfast and all across Northern Ireland. There is an emerging financial technology industry. I am intensely proud of what we've helped create there. We are now down to the point, because of our brand, where companies' due diligence about whether they're going to go create a business in Belfast consists of one phone call. They call us and they say, how's your experience been there? Have you had a good experience? Is the government a good partner? We say yes, their due diligence is over, just to be clear. So I think that's a good thing until so many companies come there that we have a tough time hiring the best people. Then I may not be coming in, then I may give up my ambassadorship, but we'll go from there. We have 5 Irish companies listed on the NYSE. We have many of our other listed companies who have a big presence in Ireland, in the north and the south. As was alluded to earlier, we've hosted Ireland Days in 2011, 2012. We will do that again in 2013, and we will do that every year for as long as I'm Chief Executive of the NYSE. Thank you. We've hosted 4 different Taoiseachs at the NYSE, most recently Enda Kenny. There's a short story, and I promise it's a short story. I did chair the 2011 gala. I had 5 minutes notice that I was going to be the chair of the 2000 gala. Kieran McLaughlin, who many of you know, I didn't say many of you liked, I said many of you knew. I agreed to host the meeting for the committee, for the board, getting ready for the gala. Comes into my office and says, hey, I know we're about to walk into the room. Do you mind if I announce you as the chairman of this year's gala? I'm like, it's not hard enough that at the time I was trying to do a merger with the German exchanges. No, I got plenty of free time, Kieran. Sure, sign me up for that. You know, thanks for all the notice. We did raise over $3 million that year. And I remember saying at the beginning of that evening, and to me, it should be the theme of what we always think about Ireland, because Ireland is always willing to do things differently. Ireland's always willing to think out of the box. You find me another country who's having whose primary philanthropy fund is having its biggest gala of the year. And remember, this is an Ireland fund. And it has it on Cinco de Mayo. It has a guy named Niederauer as the chairman of the gala, and its honoree is Muhammad Ali. You find me another country other than Ireland who could pull that off, okay? All right? So, lastly, we are really proud of what we've done in Belfast. We started with 75 people. We have 300. My guess is by next year we'll have close to 400. And to me, I think the theme we should all take away from tonight, other than, wow, that's a long event for a Tuesday night, is what's really, really important, all kidding aside, is that it really is about partnership and friendship. And when you think about 800 people who are gathered here tonight, you know, many of you are in each other's networks already. You do business together because you enjoy doing business together. You are friends with one another. So whether we can do business person to person, whether we can do business company to company, or whether we can do business country to country, let's make sure that the love affair that I personally have with Ireland is true for all of us when we do business together, and certainly true between our 2 great countries. God bless all of you. Thank you.